either make decisions about coming if you haven't decided yet, or if not, then also just give you an idea of what's happening if you're already registered and are coming. Quite a few of you have said that you need to leave in 30 minutes. So I'm actually going to go through the slides first so that at least you get all the information. And then I'll take questions at the end, so that for those of you who can... Sorry, I'm also recovering from a cough. So for those of you that can attend for longer, you can ask your questions then. So I'm going to show you some slides. Okay, so as most of you probably know, this year's Green Commodities Community event, which is also known as the Good Growth Conference, and now renamed the Good Growth Conference, is being held in Peru, hosted by the Peruvian government. And we are organized by a partnership, the Good Growth Partnership. So the partner is partnered by the Global Environmental Facility, and it's convened and designed by the partners who implement the Good Growth Partnership. So that's UNDP, the International Finance Corporation, Conservation International, WWF, and UN Environment. Also with support from PAGE and GIZ and SACO. So lots of stakeholders are behind the scenes making this happen. And the idea is that well, this is what's going to happen. On the Monday, we'll be in Lima, having a more high-level, wider event. And then we'll move to the region of San Martin, which is in the Amazon in Peru, and continue a deeper session with fewer people. So that's the high-level line about it. We have kind of 5 congruent objectives, all related to and supporting how we really get sustainability in global commodity systems in both landscapes and seascapes, so agriculture and in the oceans. And the objectives are to enable connectivity and partnerships around collective purpose. So really relational things, strengthen technical capacities and enhance learning and knowledge retention, designing experiences that can transform decision-maker views and practices. So we really pay attention to the how of how this conference works, and not just the what, not just the topics, but how we experience the topics. And then promoting in-country and global outreach and advocacy, just in terms of having this wide international global community coming to Peru, and also what that means in terms of how Peru communicates to the world as well. And then this is also a big moment in the year for the members of the green community to get together, and potentially for the community to grow. So other delegates beyond the community are invited to join us, and we very much hope that after experiencing and meeting all of you lovely people, that they will want to join the community too. So this is a part of that process as well. This is an invite-only event. Some conferences you can register online and kind of buy a ticket. That's not how this one works. So once people receive an invite from our team, then they are invited to register. One thing I wanted to highlight is that some of our partners, WWF, Conservation International, and UNDP, are offering field trips before and after the Good Growth Conference. So before the conference, they'll be offered in Colombia and Ecuador. And this is great because the TFA, the Tropical Forest Alliance, has their annual meeting in Colombia the week before. And so this will be a great opportunity for people to use the weekend in between to really get, connected with what's happening on the ground with communities who are doing the work, and then can come into Lima and into the continued conference if people choose to stay for the Amazon piece as well. So once you register for the conference, then we provide more details about these field trips. So who's coming to this conference? Essentially, it's a mix of stakeholders. So obviously community members, and we know that this community is made up of multiple stakeholders as well. And of course we have government, private sector, civil society, development partners, also journalists, in that we are working hard to pull together what we're calling a journalists forum. And this will involve bringing some journalists from around the world that can learn about the content of our work, and then also support us in promoting our work from the conference, but also after the conference, in terms of being connected with all of us in the community and being able to speak kind of eloquently and intellectually and correctly about the work that we do. So we're excited about that. And also external speakers, which I will touch on later as well. And then here's just, I don't think I probably captured all the countries, but here's the range of countries so far that people are coming from. So it's, I'm not sure if we've got every continent yet. Maybe we have. I think we have, yeah. And yeah, it's just looking like it's going to be a very international and exciting group of people. Just to mention at this point that the entire week will be multilingual, so it will be done in English and Spanish, and we'll have the headsets for that. So that's how we're going to roll. And just in terms of registration so far, registration is going quickly, which is great. 50% of the community members have registered so far. And we really encourage, if you haven't registered yet, or people in your organization haven't registered yet, we really encourage you to register, because we don't have so many spots left for the Amazon. So as you know, in Lima, we have a separate registration. Like, you could just come to the Monday in Lima, or you can come to the Monday in Lima and stay for the full event. And the Amazon is filling up fast. So we are holding spots for community members, and we'll hold them for the next couple of weeks. And then after that, we will start to release them out to people who want to come but that are not members of the community. And then also, just to let you know, we're monitoring, the gender balance here. At the moment, we have 40% of the people registered are female, and 60% of the people registered are male. So yeah, it's looking exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've gotten over the feeling stressed about it, and now I'm looking forward to it. So that's good. So where are we going exactly? So as I mentioned, we start in Lima, and then San Martin is up here in further north of Lima, and we fly into an airport called Tarapoto. And of course, we have information about when those flights are, and there'll be logistics support in terms of where you go and picking you up and getting you to the venue afterwards. And the venue that we're going to afterwards is called, it's in a town called El Sauce, and it's El Sauce Resort. And here's just, kind of where we're heading. And the reason that we decided to do this is really to be in the experience of what it is that we work on. I think a lot of us spend our time probably at desks looking at a computer screen and in meetings. And we feel like it's a really, it can be very powerful and to have an experience with people when we're trying to change the world, to be connected to what we are working on. And that makes a real difference in terms of what we think becomes possible, how much we care about it, and the energy that we have for the work. I'm sure you all are aware, all know that. So just a few more pictures. The venue that we're going to be in is in the Amazon, but on a lake. So lots of space. It might even be rejuvenating. Imagine that, going to a conference that rejuvenates you. So what's different about this event? I mentioned the experiential aspect in terms of being in the forest, but I also want to just talk about the fact that we are designing each day, and I'm going to give you a sneak preview of the agenda in a minute. Really, each session is got an experiential aspect to it in terms of how we design people's conversations, how we design what you hear, what happens in the morning versus what happens in the afternoon, and just really paying attention to how it is to be a person at a conference and to learn. It's also going to be very relational based. So there will be lots of moments that we will lightly facilitate, but with intention, connections between people that you might not have connected with before, but in a way that we feel like, oh, I really know that person in a different way, or oh, I think I've developed another level of trust. And the reason that we do this is because that's kind of the work we're up to in the world. If we really want to change commodity systems for sustainability and save the forests and clean up the oceans, we are working in systems with lots of people, and that requires developing different kind of relationships and different kind of trust. So we want to kind of live our work in a real way. I think the other thing is that it's really designed for learning. So once we move into the Amazon, we're really focused on, what do community members like? What do you want to learn? What do you have to share? And how can everybody learn from each other? And then it's community based. I think a lot of times conferences are, this group of people come together once and then leave. Whereas this is very much, you've joined a community, you've been participating for a year or so, just under a year or so now, and there will be a continued relationship and network and between everybody. So it's a community-based experience. And also that how you are matters in terms of, you might be, you might know everything, you turn up, let's give an example, you might know everything about the issues or the challenges in your sector. Let's take, for example, you, Ronald, like these are the real problems in palm oil that we need to address in Liberia. And that's great, you need that for sure. But also how you arrive to that meeting, how you are in that meeting will completely influence how able you are to influence other people's opinions or persuade other people or make them feel comfortable about changing their minds or about doing something new, or for example, having a new policy or shifting. So in the design of the week, we give attention and care about how you feel during the week. And also we give workshops and sessions where you get to be like, oh, how am I in the learning about how I am? How am I as a facilitator? How am I as a leader? How am I when I work with conflict? How am I in terms of developing new relationships? Those kind of things. So wanted to highlight those for you. And then also just we are going to have a guest speaker who's joining us in Lima, and this is just a different angle in that Gyalong Tubten, he works with the likes of Google and LinkedIn and helps train organizations around mindfulness, and really looking at like what's the power of our abilities and our consciousness in terms of leadership when we're really trying to, it's a big statement, but like save the planet, but then that's really what we're up to. So just recognizing that kind of leadership requires like some self-care and some deepening. And so he will be joining us to speak to everybody in Lima. So here's a sneak preview of the agenda. Just a caveat, this is still draft. It can change, like it literally changed from yesterday to today already. So that's how dynamic it is. But generally the structure and the people will not change. So it's more just like the content or the titles or might change a little bit. So this is Monday. So this is the agenda for Monday, where we're focusing on systemic sector transformation. And it will be held at a hotel in Lima. We are in the process of contracting, and so we don't want to just announce just yet who the venue is, because we don't want them to think they've already got the contract while we negotiate with them. But that will be coming soon. So we will start with a welcome address with the president of Peru, and we hope also the CEO of Jeff, and also a bureau director from UNDP. And the idea here is really just to start inviting questions around, so what am I here to learn? What are my concerns? What am I worried about? What am I hopeful about in terms of the work that we do? And then we'll shift into a couple of panel discussions, which will be brief, each of them about an hour. And the first one is really around a high-level philosophical conversation, but a live multi-stakeholder debate, because I think we're all up to work that links to multi-stakeholder engagement, around, what is really possible in terms of creating a sustainable model for growth in commodities. So that will be a moderated panel. And then after the break, we will hear from Ministers of Environment and Agriculture from Peru, Ecuador, and Colombia around, what it is that they're doing that's working in terms of public-private collaboration to stop deforestation in the Amazon. So really looking at like best practices or experiences that have worked, and sort of lifting up the energy in terms of what's hopeful and what could be replicated. And in the afternoon, we shift into more workshop style sessions. And these will be focused around, if you're looking at a system, what are the key pieces inside of a system that can accelerate transformation? And so we're looking at market demand, production, and financing. And in each room that will be curated by one of the partners, we will be hosting tables of conversations. So we'll have different partners again hosting different tables, and there'll be like a question that you're invited to have a conversation around at each table. So it'll also be very interactive and in smaller groups, and we hope to tweet the things that you discover in that session. And then we will, in the afternoon, hear from Gelong Tubten on the power of consciousness. So he will be our guest speaker, and that will be the last session before we then move into some time just to chat and a cocktail reception, which will be hosted by our Peru colleagues in the Peru Gallery. So as you know, Peru has some of the best food and drink in the world. So I'm looking forward to that moment as well. And just to say that we also have had an attention around creating enough space in the breaks and lunch. So lunch is an hour and a half, breaks are half an hour, and then time at the end, just to allow everybody to have those side conversations and chats that we know that a lot of what a conference offers is that. So creating space for that. And of course, a lot of these people are invitation in process, under confirmation, etc. So wanting just to flag that for now. So then in the Amazon, we moved to San Martin, the area in the Amazon, and we've designed this agenda along 3 pathways. So community learning pathways. It doesn't mean that you have to just choose one. You could go from one to the other throughout the week, but it's just to give you a sense of the content threads that are running throughout the week. They are from commitments to action, the human element, and working with the earth. And you can see that they're peppered through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Different workshops will be held in parallel. And on Thursday, we'll have learning visits as well that will also be held in parallel. The morning ones are kind of deep dives, where you'll spend the workshops will be 2.5 hours long. And then the afternoon sessions are shorter kind of case study based or training based sessions that will be about an hour and a half. But we start by everyone, getting there. So that will be the morning on Tuesday, and lunch will be offered from 12 p.m. along with registration. And then we'll have sessions all together in the afternoon. So we'll start by just talking about our community and also the community that's hosting us, just connecting with where we are and whose land we're in. And then we're going to form these curated learning groups. So everybody will be put into a learning group and with a facilitator. And the idea is that these are spaces that support your own reflection and learning throughout the week, and also connect you with other people that you might not usually talk with. So you'll see peppered through the agenda, like you'll meet each other on the Tuesday, and then on Wednesday evening you'll have dinner together. And then on Thursday, you'll spend your time on your learning visits together as well, and have conversations on the way out and on the way back from your visits. And then in the afternoon on Tuesday, we'll have partnerships for systemic change, learning and action. And this is really just looking at, not the content of what we're trying to do, because we have a lot of that in the workshops, but also like, what is the reality of actually trying to work in partnership? What are the joys and the pains and the benefits and the difficulties, because we know they're all there. And we really wanted to set the tone for that it's okay to share what's challenging, right? And that we learn from mistakes too. So just to set up that's what we're here to do together. And then in the evening, we're going to have a very special dinner, a Connected Conversations dinner. So this is you'll have a menu for food, but you'll also have a menu for conversations, and people, through a facilitated process, people will get paired up and have a different kind of dinner that is proven and tested and works really nicely. Wednesday morning, so Wednesday we're really focusing on community learning. And you'll see here through the workshops, I just want to highlight, in the morning, we'll look at a live example of a public-private partnership and just look at the different perspectives of what it's like to work. If you're government, what's it like to work with private sector? And if you're private sector, what it's like to work with government. And then at 2 p.m. on the Wednesday, we will have two parallel sessions. One will be a session, Women Speak Their Truth. This will be a filmed roundtable of women leaders talking about what it's like to work in this sector. This is really focusing on gender mainstreaming. And then another parallel, there'll be, for those people who do not want to witness or observe that session, there'll be opportunity to deepen your sense making, which will be facilitated process in the forest. And then we have just to highlight in the afternoon, I'm conscious that it's past and a lot of people need to leave. In the afternoon here on Wednesday and Thursday, we'll finish not too late. And then there's an hour of time where, we all have 3 different rooms that people can use for open sessions. So if you are wanting to have a meeting with other partners or about a particular topic, or we will open up for you to be able to book those rooms, and then you can have your own kind of self-organized meetings in those sessions. I'm not going to go through every single workshop here. You can read what's on the screen. But just to say that on the Friday afternoon here, of course, we'll come back together. This will be a moment that we'll actually be looking at collectively designing what the future of the shape of the community looks like. So what kind of streams and content you want to see in the community. And we'll also take a look at a new resource, the Impacts platform, which will be ready to launch shortly after the conference. So there'll be a moment for you to hear about that. I might pause there and start taking questions, especially for any of those people that need to get off and want to ask something. So does anyone have any questions? Anything you want to know?
Just a question here.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hi, this is Mike from Global
Hi,
Marine
Mike.
Commodities Project in Ecuador. Just a question. Thursday is going to be field visits, then I understand, or field learning experience. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and okay, I'm just reading it here. So we will send more details. So each person can register to the different groups if they'd like to participate in.
Yeah, once you've registered for the conference, and nearer the time, so not immediately, but nearer the time, you will be invited to choose which learning visit you want to go on, what your preference is. And then you'll sign up and say, yeah, I want to do this one. And of course, we'll give you more information about what's involved and the timing and what will happen on them in order for you to be able to do that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I think that it's looking very likely that will all be done through an app. So we'll send you an app that you can download on your phone, and then you'll just do that all through an app on your phone.
Okay, great. Yeah. That's good to know. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, welcome.
Hello, Liz, and everybody.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi, how are you? Just one question. There is any session, because there are some individual sessions, as you mentioned. There is like a plenary where we can hear or listen from what they discuss during the other sessions.
No.
Okay.
No. There's not.
Okay, so the question is there a way that we can learn about the other session or contribute in some way? Because I mean, it's going to be very difficult sometimes to choose.
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
It's always like that. But,
yeah, I know.
But are you thinking on something after that, or any way that that we can interchange learnings or knowledge?
I don't know. It's a good question, Sandra. So I'll think about it. I'm not a big fan of giant meeting workshop reports because I don't think anybody reads them, to be honest. But there may be maybe each moderator or each host of the workshop could do a, half-page summary of what came out of it or something like that. So let me think. It's a good question. Let me think about that. Anyone else? No? All right, so I'll just quickly move on. So quite often one of the questions that people ask us is like, well, how much does it cost? And so the good news is that it's free. Like, we don't charge you to come to this. So it's a donor funded event. That means it's free. But you do need to pay for your own accommodation and travel, of course, to be able to participate. So we'll be providing all the lunches, of course, during the week, and a few of the dinners. But otherwise, your organization will need to be able to fund the cost of participation in terms of accommodation and travel. So if you want to know specific details about how much that might cost, we have done some estimates based on the hotels and things. But of course, there's a range and there's different options. And one of the things I wanted to say is that next week, so here's the website for the conference. And next week up there, we'll have information, like more logistics information about like where you can book your hotels and what the different options are and the flights and those kind of things. So visas, etc. So just wanting to know that I know that's an important part of getting there, and then we're aware of that, and that we'll also send you a logistics note too. And if you have any questions, like in the meantime about logistics, you can contact Matthias, who's on this call, and this is his email address here. And if you have any questions or comments about the agenda, you can always contact me as well.
Hi, this is Stephen Donofrio with Forest Trends. Just a quick question, and thank you so much for the overview. You know, with the Ecosystem Marketplace Initiative, you mentioned journalists, and we would love to be able to have somebody there. When I know you just talked about cost and budget, are you able to support any journalist activities, or how are you planning to facilitate that?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. So we have some budget for some journalists, but not enough for all of them. So we are very keen to bring more, but when we say more, then they need to come with funds too. So like the project has funds too. So if you want to discuss more, I'm very happy to put you in touch with Rebecca, who supports all the communications for this conference. Just let me know. Please
do, because we have both, you know, video as well as, you know, standard print capabilities. So it'd be great to discuss.
Okay, perfect. All right, I'll follow up with you. Anyone else? Does anybody want to see another slide again? Maybe I'm going to move it back to here. Oh, not that one. So maybe I just ask a question then as well, which is who on this call is actually is coming? Well, I need to stop sharing my screen so I can see. Who's coming? Mike's coming. Ronald, are you coming? Maybe you're coming. Cool. Clemens, are you coming? Can't hear you, Clemens. And Oscar and Celeste, are you coming? Can't hear you, you're on mute.
Hi, Lisa.
Hello,
Hi.
Lisa. I don't know.
We don't know yet.
¿Por qué? Okay. Espero que sí.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. So next week on the website, there'll be a version of the agenda and more information. And that's going to be available in Spanish too. So it won't be available immediately in Spanish, but once we've got the English finalized, then we'll translate to Spanish and it will be available in Spanish as well. So I think we could probably leave it there. And you've all got an extra 40 minutes of time or 50 minutes of time that you were not expecting to have as a bonus. Great. So contact Matthias if you have questions about logistics. Contact me if you have questions about the agenda. And if you haven't decided to come, make that decision by the end of today. And we hope to see you in Peru. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Liz. Thank you so much.
Goodbye, goodbye.